Some dogs get adopted because they're small, cute, and easy to handle. Odin was the complete opposite. He weighed nearly 150 pounds, and he was so big that simply turning around could send things around the house shaking. Before he was even 18 months old, Odin had already been turned away by 3 different families. Then a little girl named Rosie came along, and somehow she saw something in this giant dog that everyone else had missed. A friend. No one knew that just a few months later, the dog people had called too difficult would be standing in the middle of the house at 2:47 in the morning, protecting Rosie from a stranger trying to break in. Odin was already used to being rejected. One family said their apartment was too small, another couldn't handle a Great Dane who was still young, huge, and full of energy. Then the third family gave up too. Odin was still just a puppy, but he had already been moved around so many times that no one knew which door would open for him next.
That's right. We are 2.5 kids deep. We're a little walking break, basically.
That's when Sophie, a 29-year-old mum caring for her young daughter Rosie while her husband was often away for work for weeks at a time, decided to foster Odin. She thought she would simply give him a safe place to stay for about a week. 1 week where he could feel secure, and then they would figure out what came next.
Oh my god! He just repositioned.
But from the very beginning, Sophie quickly realised that living with a nearly 150-pound dog was nothing like caring for any dog she had known before. Odin's giant tail could knock things over with one happy wag. He could accidentally bump into furniture just by walking past it. And whenever he needed to turn around in a small room, everyone basically had to get out of his way. But in the middle of all that chaos, Sophie noticed something that really stood out. Odin seemed to become a completely different dog whenever he was around Rosie. She was tiny, and Odin was enormous compared to her, but instead of playing too rough or getting overly excited, he naturally slowed himself down. He walked gently, laid down whenever Rosie came near, and patiently accepted her clumsy little hugs. Rosie fell in love with Odin almost immediately. To her, he wasn't a giant dog who was difficult to manage. He was simply the biggest friend she had ever had. She loved brushing him, sitting beside him, and talking to him as if Odin understood every single word. And in his own way, Odin seemed to answer her. Every evening, when Rosie sat down to watch cartoons, Odin would lie right beside her. When it was time for bed, he would choose a spot just outside her bedroom door. Nobody told him to do it. Nobody trained him to guard her. But night after night, that enormous dog would lie there as if he had quietly decided that keeping an eye on his little friend was his job.
Go, go, go! Goose, aye, Lucifer.
1 week turned into several weeks, then several months. Eventually, no one was talking about Odin staying temporarily anymore. He had his own place in the house, in their daily routines, in their meals, their afternoons, and all the little moments that made up family life. Then, 7 months later, something happened on an otherwise completely ordinary night. At around 2:47 in the morning, Sophie was asleep when she heard a deep, low growl. It wasn't a sound she normally heard from Odin. Something about it was different enough to wake her immediately. Sophie stepped into the hallway and saw Odin standing completely still. He wasn't running around the house. He wasn't barking wildly. He was simply staring toward the glass door leading to the backyard. The yard light was still on, and on the other side of that door, someone was trying to get into the house. Sophie didn't fully understand what was happening yet, but Odin seemed to. He slowly walked downstairs and positioned himself directly in front of the door. His massive body nearly blocked the entire entrance. Then he let out a deep, low growl that seemed to make the whole house go quiet. The person outside saw Odin, a massive Great Dane standing only a few feet away, completely calm but clearly ready to protect his home. And that was enough. The stranger turned around and ran.
Why do they look so much bigger?
Hi.
Police arrived about 5 minutes later and confirmed what Sophie was still struggling to process. Someone really had been trying to break into the house. Several nearby homes had also been targeted that same night. But Sophie and Rosie's home remained safe because Odin had noticed something was wrong before anyone else did. What touched Sophie most wasn't simply that Odin was big enough to protect the family, it was the fact that he had chosen Rosie long before that night ever happened. From the very beginning, when other people only saw a dog who was too big, too strong, and too difficult to handle, Rosie saw a friend who simply needed someone to love him. Even now, Odin still sleeps outside Rosie's bedroom every night. He can still knock things over with one swing of his tail, and he still makes the house feel a whole lot smaller than it actually is. But no one in this family thinks Odin is too much anymore. He has become part of their home, and more importantly, the friend Rosie knows she can always count on. People looked at Odin's size, his energy, and all the challenges that came with him and decided he wasn't right for anyone. But sometimes an animal doesn't need a perfect family. It just needs someone willing to look beyond the reasons everyone else gave up. And for Odin, that person was Rosie.
She knows what to do.